Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Sitting In podcast. This is a conversation with athletes about real life. Today, we are sitting down with Georgeta, who is a two-time Romanian national road champion on the bike. Georgeta, how would you introduce yourself? Let's hear about all those accolades and your last name, if you would.
I'm Georgeta Ungureanu, and I was born and raised in Romania. You said it really well, that I'm a road national champion. I won the title twice. And I was born and raised there, and I was always into sports. I used to be a professional swimmer. And then I moved to the US when I was 19 and kind of fell in love with biking. And then I got into bike racing kind of late. I would say, I think I was 24 when I got into it.
At what age did you start swimming?
Swimming, that's a hard question. So my mom was super athletic, and I have two older brothers. So she always tried to get us to spend like our free time doing sports. And I don't know if you guys know Nadia Comaneci. She was a pretty famous Romanian. She got like 10 at Olympics. So basically, Romania was like super popular with gymnastics. So I did that for a while and I didn't like it. I was probably 5 years old. And then she took me in the swimming pool. So I liked swimming a lot. And I was probably 6 or 7 years old when one of the coaches was like, oh, she has talent. She should stay here and like keep coming. It was like a school thing, but then they just got me on a team and they said like, just keep at it, stay at it. And then I had to swim every single day, sometimes twice on Saturdays and then Sundays, and yeah.
And when did you did you swim right up until you left Romania, or like did you swim?
I think so. I was probably when I was 14, I had like a national title with juniors, and then when I was 16, it started to be harder. It was like you had to make it to the European Championships or World Championships. A lot of people started coming to college in the United States, like it was a thing, like in our hometown. Mm-hmm. Whoever is really good, they can go to Alabama University or like seriously,
yeah.
It was, everybody dreamed about it, like the American dream, like you're gonna go to a college and swim and then you're gonna make it to the Olympics. And I think when I was 16, my body changed, and I remember I think I took a break for 2 months, and when I showed up back, the coach looked at me and he was like, something happened to you, like I had like, basically, I wasn't hydrodynamic anymore.
Okay.
He like tried to tell me nicely, like, you're never going to make it. Like, you should just give up now. So I think I stopped when I was 17. Yeah.
Was that like you heard that and you were like, all right, that's it?
It was, I think it took a while. It was super hard because my whole life was about swimming, and I actually wanted to come to US as well. And, I think as an athlete, like you always want to perform and you always want to be the best. Like I wanted to win everything and I wanted to be, the best. So when I was told like, you're not going to make it, I think it was like really hard. It was like, I was like, I don't know who I am anymore. Like, what am I going to do now? It was, that was hard.
Were you also really focused in school at that time, or was it just sports for you?
My parents pushed me to do school a lot. Like I wanted to go to a high school where I didn't have to study much because you could do that. And then my parents were like, no, you need to have a plan B. If swimming doesn't work, you need to study and do well. So I was in school at the moment at that time. So school was helping. And then I think actually I got into skydiving. So that's kind of like what helped me.
You got into skydiving.
Yeah.
Explain that. How?
So in Romania, there's this program. They actually recruit high school students to be on skydiving teams. And yeah, it's a thing. You can go to world championships. And yeah, it's pretty cool.
How old?
Yeah, we need to back up a little bit.
Okay. People recruit you in Romania to be on a skydiving team in high school.
Yeah.
How old were you? This was during your swim time?
I was 16.
You were 16. Yeah. And why skydiving? Have you been, are you an adrenaline addict? Or is this like you didn't think of it that way? You were just like, that seems fun. I'll jump out of airplane.
Yeah, I feel like I was in high school and two beautiful women walked in and we were in class. And they were just like, we're just here because we're instructors, skydiving instructors in town. Like they're, 10 miles away. And we're recruiting people. So whoever is interested in becoming a skydiver, or also the plane that doesn't have engine. I forgot what's the name. How do you say it
like
in
a
English?
hang glider or something like
paragliding
that.
or something.
Paragliding, I think. Yeah. So it was like, if you want to join, come Saturday morning at 8 a.m. You're going to learn everything about the program because it's a program you have to go through. And I was sitting in the last bench with my best friend and like, we're looking at each other like, we need to go. Like, we need to do this.
I don't think that would be my natural reaction. I don't think I would be like, I need to go skydiving right now.
No, I mean, it was two women and they were both like super beautiful, confident, you know, like we're like, as a young girl, for me, I was like, whoa, that's cool. We need to go. So then I went and I signed up for it. It was like a 5-month class. Like you had to go every weekend and learn about the wind, about the plane that you're going to jump from, about like there was a lot you had to learn and then give a test. And there was a psychological test, I think. And then the first jump is with a cable. So they attach this cable to your parachute. And when you jump, basically it's like an automatic, the parachute just opens. And then you have to simulate. And after 5 jumps, I think, on the 6th one, I was able to just open it myself. So then you do more free fall and then you open. And then, yeah, it was a lot of fun.
And this is all like 16. So what is the team, like how do they grade you on your skydiving performance? Is it like, are you doing formations?
Okay, so I was 17 and actually my mom had to sign a paper that she allows me to do this. I remember we lied to dad. Like he didn't know we're doing this.
That's usually so opposite because it's usually the dad that's like, hey, you want to jump out of airplanes? And your mom doing it and hiding it from your dad is hilarious.
Yeah, she used to ski a lot and she did like a little bit of biathlon. So she was basically, she's
awesome.
Adventurous. Yeah, and she was encouraging. So so basically what you have to do is learn how to maneuver the parachute. So like whoever lands in this like super small, like tiny dot wins the competition.
Okay.
It's like bocce ball, but with you're the ball.
And flying out of an airplane.
Your heel is supposed to touch like this little millimeter dot.
And my guess is that like you're not supposed to like run forward after you land. It's like if you stick the landing and stay right there, that's the best case scenario. Mm-hmm. That's so interesting. We need more skydiving teams in the US.
Is skydiving like a thing in Romania?
Yeah.
It is.
So there's like 2 airplanes. They're like huge. The airplane that you jump out of. So they just travel through all the towns. So like every town has a team. And then when they get to your town, like for example, 2 weeks out of the year, you train. So I was at some point, I think I had to do seven jumps in a day, which is a lot of adrenaline. It was like super hard. And then you practice and then there's nationals. So everybody trains when they have their week. And then you can go to other cities as well and just like pay or try to convince people to let you jump more.
Yeah.
But it's hard. Like, you know, they're just like, no, like only, 12 people can go in the airplane. And
especially
we only
if there's competing towns.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
They're like, we don't want you to jump more than you're allowed to.
Yeah.
So how big is Romania overall? What is the total population or like the size? Because you're saying they travel from town to town, right?
Yeah. Well, the size of the country, I think it's the size of Arizona state.
Okay.
The population, I don't remember exactly. I would have to Google that. Yeah. it's pretty big.
Yeah. And is it like the town that you're on? Like, is it like or not town? Is it the team that you're on? Is it like a town team? So it's like, I don't know, the town that you grew up in.
Yeah, for example, like it would be like Los Angeles team. And then you would have like, you would have Fresno team. And then you would have San Francisco team. And
So between swimming and cycling was skydiving.
Yes, yeah. That kind of took I feel like mentally I was in a bad place where I was like, I have no idea what am I going to do. And then these people came into my life. Like our instructor was awesome. And all the people I met there were very like happy and full of life and outgoing. And it just brought something new into my life. And then I was like not thinking about swimming anymore because all my best friends were still in the pool every day and they were still, competing. And so it was like kind of hard for me to, like, I didn't even want to hang out with them anymore because I knew that they're going to go to US and they're going to go to Norway. And, like everybody was just like continuing on their goals, like making their dreams happen. And I was kind of like, I don't know what I'm going to do. So.
That's got to be tough. So aside from finding skydiving, was there anything that you felt like you could do at the time to get your mind off of swimming and all these friends? I mean, aside from excommunicating them.
Well, my parents were there and my 2 older brothers. So like we kind of grew up on a farm. We were in a small town, but my grandparents had a huge farm. So summers were full with like farm work and then weekends also. So I just got really busy learning everything and spending more time with my grandparents. And I think it was good for me. Yeah, I was like 18 at that time, and then nobody was really happy with my skydiving choice, but they had to deal with it. My dad was like, I raised you for 18 years so you can go kill yourself. And yeah, it was dramatic.
At least you didn't get into proximity flying or anything like that with wingsuits, right?
No.
Okay, yeah, that's a different level of skydiving, and I think almost everybody dies, right? So.
Yeah, and then I went to college, so I just went to a random college, and
What'd you study?
Wait, in the States or in Romania?
No, in Romania. I chose ethnology. I think it was super random. I just didn't know what I wanted to do, and then on the door, I remember on the college, there was this thing with J1 visa, like you could go to USA for a summer. I don't know if you guys know what it is.
Yeah.
But you work for 3 months and then you travel for a month and then you're supposed to go back. So when I came, it was awesome. I had a contract with a lifeguarding company. So they were like, are you a good swimmer? And I was like, yes, I'm professional. And then they told me they were going to pay me, I don't know, $500 a month or something. I had no idea what I'm getting into. And that was another thing that my parents were like, why do you have to go there? And I'm just like, guys, it's only 3 months. You're going to love me not being here. You know, it's
For those
I was
3 months.
I was the youngest and the most rebel person there. So yeah.
And then how did that turn into like, because you live here now.
Yeah, so I came and then I got married. So if you come as an immigrant and then you get married, basically you get a green card like automatically through marriage. So I was married for a few years, and yeah, at the beginning I didn't know anything about cycling. So I came to the US and it was like a whole new world for me. It was amazing. Everything was wow. And
Where did you initially come to the US?
I was in Maryland.
Okay.
Oh.
What
Yeah.
part of Maryland? Was it Baltimore? Or?
It was more like Rockville area, like close to Washington, D.C.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was lifeguarding different pools, and then my supervisor liked me a lot. He even gave me a pump room, so I had to go and clean you guys know the fountains? Like they have...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And actually, he's a big influencer in my life because he was a bike rider. And I don't know, do you guys know what Randonneurs USA is?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he was a randonneur. So he told me when I met him in the first week, like go on Craigslist and buy a bike. And you're just going to bike everywhere when you go to work and when you go to the pump room and whatever you need to do. And he would print maps of stuff. Like you gotta go right, left. And yeah, seriously. And it was awesome. I mean, that's how I was like, wow. And then I would see people on the road going super fast on bikes and dressed up. And I didn't even have a helmet. I was just riding in my work clothes. But
What kind of bike was this? The first one that you ended up finding on Craigslist?
oh my goodness, I don't even know. It was probably a Fuji. Like
Was it like a drop bar?
No.
Oh, it was a flat bar commuter bike. Right on.
Yeah. And then he I was into it. And then one time he's like, oh, I'm going to go do 200 miles. Do you want to come with me? And he's like, you need a nicer bike. And I think I bought like a Trek with probably $400. I don't even know. And then he took me on this 200-mile ride. And I didn't have clip-on shoes. I didn't have tubes. I didn't have anything. Yeah, it was kind of crazy. It was like DC, Virginia. I don't remember. I think we went to, what's north of Maryland? I forgot now, but it was long. It was like, it took me probably 20 hours to do
Wait, but you finished it?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. It was crazy.
Wait, and how long had you been riding bikes at all? Like
I just rode probably like, that whole summer. And
so like
then,
a couple months, and then
Yeah.
you're like, you know what, I'm gonna do 200-mile ride.
I didn't really know what to expect. He was kind of like, we're going to go on a ride with a bunch of people. Like,
Okay.
You like left out the fact that it's 200 miles.
200
He's like, yeah, it'll take you.
Yeah. No, we're still friends. So he, like, at that time he was like, you're really good. Like, I think that all your athletic, skills and everything, they translate onto the bike. So you should, pursue riding and racing and stuff like that. So he encouraged me a lot. And then I left Maryland and I moved to New York. And that's when I got into more serious cycling. So I just...
Did you like Maryland when you moved to the U.S.? Was it a stark change for you? And what were the major differences between like having grown up in Romania and now Maryland?
It was a lot. I don't remember. Honestly, the roads, the highways, the streets, like we don't even have a highway. So everything was huge. Everything was big. Food was a lot. I was like, everything, even Subway. I was like, whoa, this whole sandwich, it's like, this is lunch. Yeah, that was a lot. And,
$5 footlongs are really, yeah.
And pizza. Oh, like pizza is a luxury in Romania. Like I used to eat pizza once a year. And
Okay.
so when I came here, it's like people eat pizza every day. Yeah, that was a lot. And people were very nice. That was a big culture shock. Like every time you walk into a grocery store here, it's like everybody's like, hello, welcome, hi, and in Romania, like you don't see that. Like if you do that there, people are nice, but it's like, if they know you, you know what I mean? Like,
okay, so it's like, that sounds like small town vibes, right?
Yeah.
And so the culture sounds obviously very different, right? And people like are about who they know. Would you say that it's like tight knit, close family type culture in Romania versus like the US is more like, you're friends with random people type thing?
yes.
Or, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's interesting. And so from the food perspective, what is like your primary diet in Romania? You said you're farming and things like that. Is like
it's just fresh fruits, vegetables,
probably much healthier than our Subway sandwiches, right?
Yeah.
I think it's like a grass is always green on the other side. I would love to eat nothing but
fruits and veggies and
I'd give up dollar slices for
I experienced a buffet for the first time. That was a big deal. We were like, wait, what? We can eat all this food?
Unlimited food.
Yeah, that was a lot. I remember it was all of us lifeguards there from East Europe. So we were all going through the same thing.
Well, swimmers can eat a ton too.
Yeah, it was like competition who can eat the most plates. It was, we were in a food coma.
That's so funny. The culture shock is like, I went to the US and all I did was eat.
Just buffets on buffets. Hometown could not stop us. Oh, that's a really interesting experience. So you moved from Maryland then to New York. You moved to New York in the city?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. What part of New York did you move to?
I was in Upper West Side.
All right.
With a few
hip.
roommates. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. And I took my bike with me. So at this point, I had a Trek. That was a legit road bike. And then I remember riding in the streets with no helmet, headphones, like music on, a super, I was like
super
the cool
safe
kid. Yeah. And then a guy stopped me at a light and I was like, wait, what? And we became friends. So he had like a gang, like, there was like 5 or 6 people that were like South Americans and they would ride together on the weekends. So I became part of the club. I had to buy a helmet. And then basically they would take me to Rockaway Beach. Have you guys been to New York?
No, I've not personally been there.
It's amazing. Like basically you could do like 50, 60 miles. So you could ride all the neighborhoods and then go to the beach, like hang out, eat like cool food and then ride back. So I just was in my day off because I used to work in restaurants this whole time serving or bartending. And on my day off, they would just take me and all day long would be on bikes, like from like 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Yeah.
Nice.
It was fun.
I always feel like people who come to the US have such a better experience
than we do growing up here.
Man, that sounds sick.
It's just very different, right?
Yeah.
And then I crashed once and I broke my bike. So basically there was a bike shop we used to go to. It's called Master's Bike Shop. I still go there and I call the owner sometimes. He's a Dominican Republican guy who races and he's fun. So he sold me my first, it was the Specialized Roubaix.
Okay.
Because I broke the bike and he knew who I was. I used to hang out there and eat pizzas with the mechanics and drink beers. Yeah. So basically he was like, okay, I'm going to sell you this bike, but you need to buy the shoes, clip in, and then you need to come to the serious bike rides. You cannot be locking this bike on the street because you're going to get it stolen. And so he taught me most of the things that I know. Like we started going on group rides. So outside of New York City, you can cross a big bridge and then go on 9W. It's a very famous parkway.
Okay.
So you could go up all the way to Bear Mountain. There's a famous mountain there. Or you could just do like 40 miles and turn around and come back. So there was like people from Colombia, Jamaica, I don't know, Mexico, Dominican Republic, like a lot of athletes. So when you go on the parkway in the morning, it's just packed with cyclists because that's the only safe place where you could do like legit long miles without being,
run over.
Being in the city.
Yeah. So I made a lot of friends and then I started riding fast and faster and faster and faster and I got hooked. Yeah.
So was Romania, my guess is that Romania was primarily Romanians. So when you came to the US and in New York, you probably experienced a lot of different cultures at once, right? So was that like a unique experience for you seeing, Dominicans, Mexicans, all these different people from other countries?
Yeah, and Argentina, like people from Argentina, like I had friends from Colombia. And even in the restaurant, like I learned Spanish just speaking with the cooks and the dishwashers. And yeah, it was awesome.
That's an interesting experience. So I guess why restaurants then? Was it just like that's what made sense? That was easiest? Did you enjoy food? I mean,
I think I enjoyed meeting people and then, also food. Also the money, like I think it was, I was making
solid.
at some point, if it was like a good month, I would make like $4,000 a month, which for me, I felt like it was a lot. Yeah.
I mean, in the restaurant industry too, depending on what you're doing, that's like pretty considerable, right?
Yeah. And then I ended up managing places and yeah, I was really into it. And I met my my ex-husband at that time. So we moved to California together. I came here because of him. He was into music, producing music. So he was like, I either have to move to Nashville or LA. So we moved to LA.
That makes sense.
And then this is where I got into bike racing. So I started going to...
So you had not raced at all in New York. You were
No.
just doing these long rides, kind of training. How long were you in New York riding your bike?
Like almost 2 years.
Okay, so that's quite a while to not necessarily like stumble on racing in some capacity. Did you know about racing
I
at the
knew
time?
about racing. Like the boys that I was training with, they were like, you should go to Central Park. So I think I went like at probably 5:30 in the morning, and then everybody was racing. And when I saw them, I said, there's no way I'm doing this. Like because I saw the guys riding close to each other and like max speeds, and it was kind of dark outside.
Skydiving, so
Yeah, I know,
what's
but it just, I don't know. It just looked very, I was like, no, I can't do this. There's no way I can do this. So then the guys were like, okay, we'll take you to a group ride so you can practice. I went to my first group ride. Guess what happened? I crashed.
You crashed.
It was bad. It was like, I was bloody, and I still have, it was really bad. It was like 80 people there, and they were going very fast. And you guys know what's a group ride. So yeah.
Why do you think you crashed? Was it like?
Do you remember it?
It was probably, I remember it. I think because I was not very skilled. Like I was strong, but handling your bike, if there's like 3 people that come around you, like very close, like handlebar next to handlebar, like, and I feel like somebody touched me and we all went like this. And then, at some point we were all on the ground. Yeah.
I feel like it's a pretty common experience.
Yeah, I think everybody's kind of been there at some point or another, either in a race or on a group ride or something along those lines.
What was the transition like from New York to LA?
That was hard because at this point I had a lot of friends there, and then I had my own group. Like we would ride bikes together, and then I think when I came I didn't know anyone, so it was hard at first. Then I met, do you know She-Wolf Attack Team? You remember? Susie and so I was just riding bikes in LA, and I met a girl at a red light, and she's like, yeah, we ride on Monday nights. Like we meet at this coffee shop or something. So I showed up, and they were like, awesome. Like I met a lot of ladies, and they would meet at Encino Velodrome to race. So they were like, cool. They were super nice. That was one thing, okay? Like they.
And this is like an all-girls community ride type thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then they basically told me about the velodrome. So then I went there, and then I didn't have a velodrome bike, which was a problem. But I saw the velodrome, and I've never seen this in my life. And I was like, oh, I want one. So I called the bike shop in New York, like who's my best friend now. And I said, I really need a track bike. And he just shipped me one. I was just like, yeah, he was super encouraging. Like, this is the best way for you to learn bike racing at the velodrome.
It really is, yeah.
Yeah. And then I started making a lot of friends at Encino Velodrome. So that was easy, Like, people in LA were very different, for sure. Like, New York City is like, I don't know, everybody's just raw and real, and they just tell you what they want to say to your face, and I don't know.
What part of LA did you move to originally?
I was actually in downtown for a whole year.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
all right.
And then we moved to the Valley. So I lived in the Valley for 6 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Downtown for a whole year. What was that experience like? Trying to cycle anywhere? That's a tough area to get in and out of, right?
Yes.
Okay, but I'm guessing you guys were working in that area at the time.
Yeah, and then I learned to ride to Griffith Park and then go up and climb. So I met a lot of people that are in LA community, like super cool, just riding all the time, every day. And I started going to Santa Monica, like at the Rafa coffee shop, and just met a lot of people there. And I think even women in general, the women community was pretty cool. Like I met a lot of girls. And in my day off work, like I think it was Monday at that time, it would be like, we're doing a chingona, right? Like all the cool girls, like we're just going to ride bikes up Griffith. And I started going up to Mount Wilson it was fun. I mean, LA is tough. Like there was a lot of homelessness that I wasn't really used to it. Like I feel like in New York City, I didn't really see it, or I wasn't focused on it. But when I moved to LA, it was pretty bad because you would see tents and neighborhoods full of homeless people, and it was a little bit more sketch, so it was kind of hard to get used to it. But
I feel like that's definitely like the LA experience also, where I think a lot of people go to LA and their vision of LA is like 6 blocks of Melrose plus some of Malibu,
A little bit of West Hollywood.
And then maybe Manhattan
Pasadena
Beach
or something, because
And there's a huge swath of LA that like sits in there that is not that.
Yeah. But I had a lot of fun. I mean, all my cool friendships happened because of bikes and bike racing. Like from the Encino Velodrome, I went to Carson Velodrome, so I raced there. That was a lot of fun. And then at Carson Velodrome, I think Bahati saw me there, and he's like, "You should come to a crit." And I'm like, "What's a crit?" And then he's like, "Do you have a road bike?" So then I went to, I don't remember what was that crit that time, but I think Megan Jastrab won. Like I remember she had like long blonde hair, and she was a junior at that time, and I was racing with her and a bunch of girls. I didn't even know what I'm doing, but it was so much fun. Like everybody was there, you know. I think it was Ladera Ranch. That race is not happening anymore.
Doesn't happen.
And then I raced my first crit. I'm like, wow, and I wasn't good at it. Like I was.
Would you say you were good on the track already?
Yes. Like, you know, the girls at Encino were teaching me strategy and like how to win and what to do. So Nina, you know, Nina from San Diego, she taught me a lot.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
so she used to live up there. And I learned a little bit at Encino Velodrome, but then when I got on the road crits, it was a little bit different. It wasn't the same like the Velodrome.
What was the first time you rode Carson like? Because for people listening, Encino is outdoors, right? It's 33-degree banking. It's a little shallower. It's like concrete, or it's concrete, right?
Yeah, it's concrete.
Yeah, so it's concrete. But then Carson is like 46-degree banking, indoors, wood. What was that experience like going from one to the other?
It was amazing. Yeah. It was scary. I was like, wait, I got there. And I remember looking down and I was like, wait, I'm riding this? No way. And then I saw people going up and down and I was like, oh, like, no, there's no way. And then I remember the instructor, I think it was Andrew. We went there on a Saturday morning. He was like, just pedal as hard as you can. Like, cause he said that if we don't keep up the speed, we're going to slide. So then I just like went super hard the whole time. Yeah. And then he was like, okay, we need to slow down.
Just a little bit.
You don't have to go that fast.
But he was a great instructor. Like we had to go, I think 2 Saturdays in a row and learn everything, rules and how it works. And then I was really good. Yeah. I mean, it was, basically.
So you seem naturally competitive, right? And you said that your mom was, you know, an athlete growing up. And so you went that route and you were naturally an athlete. And even with swimming, you thought that was it, right?
Yeah.
So when you found cycling, did you have the same feeling that you had when you found swimming initially? Or like when you did it bring you the same sort of joy that you were experiencing?
Yeah, for sure. And I think I remember in New York City, I went on Google and I was like, cyclists in Romania, Olympic champions in Romania, who competed in world championships in Romania? And I started looking who's riding bikes in Romania, but cycling clubs in Romania. And then I started following on Instagram, like everybody. Like, I don't know if you guys know Sergei Tetkov. He was a really, really good. He still is an amazing Romanian cyclist. He won national titles and then he went to worlds. And so I was just following random people and I was like, I need to go to Romania and compete there. You know, it was like a thing. Yeah, I was super into it. Like, and I remember that summer it was Olympic Games were on TV. And I'm like, oh, I could go to the Olympics on, you know, like people were like racing road bikes. And then, it was a big deal.
You're like, I could do that for Romania.
Yeah,
So,
I totally got into it.
Was that, so when you were seeing like the Olympics and everything on, you know, racing road bikes, was that when you were still in New York, so you had not started racing yet?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, so this is kind of your first interest in racing. And then you came out here, you started racing in Encino, and then you found Bahati, or I guess he found you, and then said, let's race some crits.
And I remember in my first crit, I looked horrible on my road bike, and somebody was like, you need to call Lauren. You guys know Lauren Mulvitz? She's a bike fitter.
She dialed in.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Her company name is called Dialed In Bike Fitting. So they were like, you need to go get a bike fit. And then they were like, it's going to be $300. I'm like, whoa, that's a lot of money. And then people were like, no, you need to do it. If you want to race and you want to be good, you need to do this. So I went in Lauren's office and she's awesome. So immediately she's like, let me call Leah. You need to be on a team. And then she called this lady and then she's like, yes, like, you know, and Leah is amazing. So she was the team director of Sisterhood of Cycling. I don't know if you guys remember.
I remember
it was a
that.
women club. Women like owned, sponsored and everything. She was all about women, like women growth. And she always said that if there's a men's team, there's always like men's and 2 women or like men's and 5 women. But if there's just women, like all the funds and all the sponsorship goes to the women. So she was amazing. And she basically just shipped me a jersey and a bib. What size are you? And a medium. And then I showed up at the velodrome, I remember, and everybody was like, how did she get on that team? And, you know, it was cool back then, I think. And I was on the team for like 6 years. So Leah taught me a lot about just bike racing and then sponsorships and then traveling. Like she gave us a van to go to Tour of the Gila. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. We actually had a team getting ready to race Redlands and Gila one summer and 8 girls and it was super cool. She taught me everything what we need to do. And then COVID hit. like a month
really?
before
That
Redlands. Yeah.
Sucks.
Yeah.
Wait, so what happened to this team then? Was it just COVID sort of
COVID, yeah. So
things
COVID
down?
ruined everything because that year we didn't race at all, and like we had funds for like everything. Like we had clothing, we had helmets, we had a few bikes. We already had cars to drive there because it's like a whole. Even Redlands, you have a team car and everything.
Yeah.
And yeah, basically there was no racing that year, and everybody was just like, we don't know what we're gonna do. Like, and then we were thinking, let's do like social media posts, and like, like we felt bad because the sponsors gave us all this money, and like we're like, there's nothing we can do. And I received my green card that year, so I basically, when I got it, I booked a flight to Romania. So at this point, I didn't see my parents in 10 years.
Whoa. And so
Yeah,
Yeah, because until you have your green card, you can't leave the States,
yes.
right? Yeah.
yeah.
And so were you close with your family?
I was, yeah. I mean, we would FaceTime, but it's a different story. So when I went, I stayed home for 6 months. It was like a big emotional roller coaster because like I didn't see my brothers. They both got married in the meantime, had babies, and yeah, it was like it was a big change for me. I got home and I couldn't really talk for a few days, and then I was like, okay, like,
Wait, so I mean, being close with your family, sounds very tough. Did they encourage you to come to the States, or were they kind of hesitant about that? Were they like, what the heck are you doing?
I think they just thought I was going to be here for 3 months and that's it.
And then they'd see you at home.
10 years later.
Yeah. So it was kind of hard. But then I took my bike there. So I started riding and I started racing, and I met another wonderful woman there who had a race team out of a college or university.
This is in Romania.
This is in Romania. And I went in her office and I said, I want to be on this team too. Like, what do I have to do? And it was like mainly boys at that time. And she was kind of like, there's no girls. And then she was like, you need to enroll in the university if you want to be on the team. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. Like, I'll join the university. Like, because I really wanted to race. And they don't allow you to race unless you're part of a club. Because in Romania, there's a few rules that US doesn't have. For example, a big one is... there's this athletic facilities. They're like medical offices where you need to go and you need to get a stamp that you're physically able to compete. Like they go through a lot of testing. They take blood and everything to make sure you don't have a heart problem. So if you don't have the stamp with the paper with the Romanian, like USA Cycling is here, we have Romanian cycling. You're not allowed to compete.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
You have to like clear like a doctor's.
So you went back there and you're trying to get on the cycling team and you have to have this stamp.
Yeah.
And so did you go do the physical and all the things? And
Yeah. And then she enrolled me in the club, and then I raced nationals that summer and I won the national title. So I was like, all of a sudden, and I didn't have high expectations because I didn't know who was going to be there. Like there was probably 6 girls. I don't remember. And I didn't know the people there. Like you guys know in cycling, you have to know your competition.
It helps.
Yeah, it helps. So it was awesome. I mean, I don't remember exactly. There was a crash on the finish where like some people were like, oh, if we didn't crash, we could have won. And it was like this whole, dramatic debate.
Isn't that always the case? If you don't crash, you could win.
Yeah. But I won. And then I remember it was a big deal, like even in my hometown and like my whole family. And I was just like, it was not a big deal, but I was like, guys, I'm the best in the country. Look at this. I get to wear the flag now. Yeah. So it was cool. Yeah. And then, I kind of wanted to stay home. I didn't want to come back. It was like a very hard decision to make. Like my parents were kind of like, "What are you doing?" And I got a phone call from Gil, who is a bike shop owner in Temecula, and he also owns the iSpeed Felt professional team. And he knew me from bike racing, and he told me that they just bought a bike shop. They really want a manager to come in and help with everything. And it was like a whole different industry because I managed restaurants before, and now I had to come and manage a bike shop. And I love riding and racing. I didn't know a lot about bikes.
So how do you think that experience translated then? Because it's like managing a staff of people and things it translates to some extent, right? Or was it like a completely different experience? You're a fish out of water.
Yeah, it was hard at first. I mean, I'm still super grateful that they had trust in me to come here and then learn everything I had to learn. It was easy because I'm a people person. So whenever somebody walked in, I'd say, hello, like, what's up? What do you guys need? And like when they wanted to buy bikes, like I'm super passionate about the sport. So it was easy to introduce them to like a road bike or a mountain bike or wherever it was, like a BMX. But when it came to parts, like people would come in to buy brake pads or rotors or all kind of stuff. That was kind of hard for me. So I had to actually sit and watch like specialized videos and Shimano stuff.
You had to go take the S-Tech stuff.
Yes. And then the mechanics were kind of like, she doesn't know anything. thing, the bros at the bike shop. And it was hard at first. It's kind of like a men dominant industry. So,
well, I feel like that's kind of been the story the whole time, right? Like I feel like swimming is like kind of a boys club.
Yeah.
And then you got into cycling, which is kind of a boys club. You worked in restaurants, which is kind of a boys club. I mean,
I was pretty lucky that I have 2 older brothers and a lot of cousins. So they it's like cool for me to hang out with a bunch of boys. Like, I don't know. I was a tomboy kind of when I was little. I never wanted to play with dolls. I wanted to play soccer and I don't know, just do whatever the boys were doing.
How do you think you're able to be successful in cycling as a female athlete? Because there are differences, right, between like how we as dudes would be successful in the sport and the way we navigate it versus the way that you would navigate things. Do you have advice or ways that you think have allowed you to be more successful in the sport as a female?
That's a good question. I feel like it was really hard at first, especially because like if you come very strong, right? A lot of women, they feel like maybe intimidated and they're like, whoa, like she's so good. And they don't even talk to you. And then sometimes you come into the sport and you don't know anything and you're not even strong. And then you go to a race or to a ride and the women don't even talk to you because they're like, who is this person? But I feel like the best thing that happened to me was just surrounding myself with more women. So like whenever I met a girl or a lady on a ride or at a race, I would just go say hi. Like I kind of want to see everybody else succeed, especially when it comes to women, because I feel like it's just a few of us. So then it's like, if I can't hang on the group ride or if I'm not good in the race, like I'm not going to want to come back because I'm not having fun. But if there's another girl there and it's like, I feel like I'm not alone, or like, if she hangs, then I can hang too. Yeah, it was pretty cool. So it was hard. I mean, as a woman athlete, I think it's hard. Like even now people are like, oh, you should be having babies and like cooking at home. And I'm like, no, I want to be on the group ride and I want to go to the race. And like I think it's hard in general, but I feel like, you get motivation from different places. Like Susie, the first team that I met in LA, they had this hashtag, women race bikes too. And it was like a big deal. Like, yes, like we want to be here and like we want to be part of this. I remember when I got into crit racing, at some point there was no women field. So the women had to race with a Cat 5 man. And it still happens sometimes, like with masters women. Yeah. And at the velodrome too, there was a lady there who was a little bit older. And she said that, wow, you guys are so lucky. You have 8 women in the field. Because when I raced velodrome 5 years ago, all the women raced with the men. It wasn't like a,
There was no split.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so now it's split at the velodrome? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like Ridley Track is actually a place that is the track is more equitable than the road, I feel like. I mean, I just got back from nationals and I think the women's Omnium had basically as many riders as the men's did.
Yeah, I feel like in the last 3-4 years, there's been a boom with women in cycling. Yeah, for sure.
What do you think it is that's attracting more women to cycling? Do you think it's those all-girl clubs and, all-female teams that have like reached out to people and because that's kind of how you got roped into racing in some capacity, right? It sounds like
with Sisterhood of Cycling,
you were meeting people.
Yeah, and then basically at the beginning it was only like probably 8 of us, and then I met a bunch of other girls at the races, and I'd be like, "Oh, Randy, you want to be on our team?" And then I got Christina, you want to be on my team? And they were like, one of them was like, "Oh, I'm not gonna race next year anymore." I was like, "Come on, it's gonna be 8 of us, and we're all gonna go there, and we're gonna do this." So you just hype everybody up, and then just basically more women want to come and be part of it. So that definitely helps. I think a lot of women more women in the sport, and then more women in the industry, right? Like we know women that like work at Zwift or that work at Specialized, and they do clinics for women, and like there's clubs like Major Motion. I think they've done a great thing this year where they just meet on a Saturday morning in a parking lot and they teach the girls how to race a crit, and just basically I think it's just women supporting women. Yeah.
I think that, obviously this is a dude's perspective, but I think that there was a period where there was like a big push for inclusion, and there was a huge amount of pushback also, where it was like all the dudes were, I can't come on this ride. Like, what do you mean? And I think that it's taken probably up until maybe the last 2 years where all of the spaces where I think women kind of congregate in cycling have finally gotten a little bit more accepted as like, oh, these are women's spaces also.
Yeah, for sure. And we love men, you know what I mean? I mean, we were a women's team, but we loved going to group rides where there was like 20 strong men, because we know that guys are going to get us stronger, because we want to ride with people that are faster than us. So it's not like we're like, oh, we don't want men here, or this is like women only, right? Like even at the races, you know, like in anything. And also because most of our bike mechanics were men, you know? It's like we would go on a group ride, like, who's going to fix this flat? In the beginning, it was like, we need a guy. Yeah.
And now you're the resident mechanic, right? Because you know all the things after watching all the Shimano videos.
Yes, I fixed a lot of flats at the bike shop. Yeah.
So how do you think of the industry as a whole then, being the manager of a bike shop, right? Have you seen a lot more women then trickling into the shop as of late or in the last couple of years? Or how have you experienced it from being like the bike shop manager, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's mainly guys. I think that, you know, it's like an obvious
Still naturally
thing.
that.
Yeah. But we do have more and more women coming in, and I've sold a lot of road bikes to women, and I meet women that are like, you know, 18, they're like in high school, and they're like really good mountain bikers. And then they're like, I want to get on a road bike because my friend said that, you know, this will help me. So they come on the group rides. They're awesome. And then I meet women that are like 55. Like there was a lady who's a tennis player, and she's really fit, and she's just like, I want to do something else. And then she gets on the bike and she's awesome. Like she didn't ride bikes in 20 years, but now she's like, I want to come to the group rides with you guys. And we do a social ride every Friday morning. So whoever buys a bike from us is invited on the ride. And yeah, it's been pretty cool.
That is a really good way to get people started in the sport, because, you know, if you go buy it, this kind of happened to me when I first also got involved in cycling, right? It was like 2019 and I went to go buy my first road bike. Or I think I actually bought it online, but then I needed things set up. So I went to like the local bike shop, and that's where I found out about my first group ride. And they invited me like this Tuesday night ride, and then I found group riding that translates to racing, all these things. I feel like that's the natural progression that you see. Mm-hmm. So it's really interesting that you guys have also the Friday morning ride, and then you're introducing more people to sport. Yeah. So that's a good avenue, I feel like, into that. Mm-hmm.
I think also I want to like touch back where we got kind of the story up to your first national championship.
Yeah, I was going to go there as well.
Wasn't there a second one?
Yeah. So after I won that title, I think I came to the US, and I started working in the bike shop. So I feel like right before nationals, the year before, I was a guest rider for, I don't know if you guys know Cojeas, the pro team. Mm-hmm. So Tour of California was a big deal in up north, where all the pros would come here. And I think I met Anna van der Breggen, who was on the specialized team at that time. And I remember taking pictures with all the pro girls that I used to watch on TV. And I was like, wow, they're like normal people like me. And it was pretty amazing. And I got the opportunity to be a guest rider. So they flew me on the East Coast in Maryland. I did Armed Force Classic. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you guys know. Okay. It's 2 days of crits. And I think that was the first time I raced with Kendall Ryan, and she won both days. She was amazing. The Tipco team. And that was my first time basically in a field with like 80 women who were all amazing bike racers. Because in LA, you have like 10, 15, 20 girls at a bike race. Then you go there and it's like people are from all over the country, and sometimes even from Europe. So it was insane. That was the first time I got a radio, and then we had a guy telling us what we need to do. There was a girl from Italy. I think she was our sprinter, so she was supposed to win. She had mechanicals both days. There was a few crashes, and yeah, that was amazing for me. I was like, whoa, I want to be a pro. That was like, wherever. And we had a massage therapist who was giving us massages after every race, and just the whole experience of the weekend and everything they've done for us was like insane. And I was like, I don't care about anything else in life right now but becoming a pro cyclist. That was my attitude. And then the next year we were supposed to go to Redlands, and then COVID hit. And I was working a lot because I was managing a restaurant that was also a grocery store. Okay. So we started working 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
So this is before you were out this direction at the bike shop managing things.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah. So then I went to Romania and I got the national title. So when I came back, I was like, what am I going to do with this? So I went on Google and I was like, professional teams in US, professional teams in Europe. And I tried to see, and I'm like, what do? You just send emails? Like, I was like, I have no idea how do you make it to the pro level? Like, how do you get on a team? Like, are you supposed to get recruited? Are you supposed to like go somewhere where they are and be like, hey, I want to be here too? Like, I had no clue, and I was trying to Google
There's no look at this. Like, this is a camp for everybody who wants to be a pro in cycling, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're Googling things, sorry.
Yeah, and that was really, that was like a hard hit because I was like, I don't know. Like it's, right? I didn't know. I was like, I don't know how. Like I asked people here and there, but there's not a lot of pro women here. Like the only pro we know, it's like Corinne Rivera and probably Kendall Ryan was at that time on Tipco, but it's not like you have direct access to them. And if you message them on Instagram, they're not going to tell you this is what you do. It's kind of like you have to win a national title or you have to, like something amazing has to happen. Like even my opportunity to race as a guest rider, I think there was a guy on a group ride who saw me beat all the boys. And he's like, I have a friend. He's like the team manager in a women's team. Maybe you should call him. Like, so he gave me this guy's phone number. It's like, oh, Georgeta is in a group ride. She's beating all the boys. I think you should take her to a race. And then they gave me that opportunity, And then it was like the year after, they were like, why don't you do a VO2 test, like VO2 max? So I had to send them all these test results to Europe and they looked at it. And then it was kind of like based on your VO2 and lactate threshold. They kind of decide like, are we going to invite you here? And then they're like, oh, well, you have to live in Switzerland for 6 months. And I was kind of like living in the US, like trying to pay rent and just like, survive. And I'm like, I don't know if I can just move to Europe. And you know what I mean?
So what happened with that part? Like, did you send all this information in or did you just scrap it?
Yeah,
entirely?
I sent it in and then I just, they told me that I got to move to Europe and I just said no.
Oh, wow.
So I just stayed and I worked. And then I think the women's team, the lady, basically, she got a little bit older and she's an artist. So she wanted to focus on her art studio and everything that she was doing with art projects. So she said, we're not going to have a team anymore. And then I just told myself I'll still compete. After I won the national title, they took me to European Championships in Italy. And that was another big shock because now I was in the line with Anna van der Breggen and all the pro girls that you see in World Tour. And it was a whole different level. I mean, I got dropped on, I don't know, minute 10 probably. And they were like, riding crazy fast, like putting power numbers that I've like never seen before. And even then, I remember the coach of the national team looked at me and was like, Georgeta, just quit. Like there's, and I was very disappointed. Like I left European Championships like, I want to quit cycling. Like,
wow, that's a bummer. So, okay, so like two things about that. So let's start with the experience and the feeling to go from having won the national, like the Romanian national title and like just having been introduced to cycling very, like not long before that, right? Mm-hmm. So now you're lining up at the European Championships on this crazy stage with all these people. What did that feel like first off?
It's kind of like being a kid at Disneyland at first because you're like, whoa, like, all the bikes there, all the people there, all like everything, the equipment, what people wear. And even the way the race was staged, the way they call you on the microphone, like, Italy comes first and then Netherlands and then Austria and then like, Romania. And then you wear the equipment, like you represent the country. It's a pretty big deal.
Did you have teammates?
Yeah, I had one teammate.
Okay.
So it was two of us. And it's a point system. So like it depends on the nation's points, how many people can go.
Okay.
Everything was just insane. And I knew the day I got there that I'm not ready for this. Like I was like, I don't have a cycling coach. I have no idea what to eat or how to. I mean, I was racing bikes, but not like at that level. Yeah. And I saw the girls that are lining up with us, and I was like, this.
But you probably learned so much, like within a very short amount of time, right?
Yeah, for sure.
That huge experience gap is probably like, oh, these are the things that I need to like figure out if I want to do this competitively from like a long-term perspective, right? Yeah. So the coach says, so then you get dropped 10 minutes in and the coach is like, just quit. What did that make you feel? Were you just like, did you agree with him? This kind of goes back to the same thing with swimming, right?
Yes.
You're like, screw that, bro. I'm going to keep riding.
I think at first, especially as a woman, when somebody tells you you're not good enough, like we take things to heart. You know what I mean? Okay. Like it's very hard. So I was disappointed and sad. And I remember I went back into the room with my team owner in Romania. And I told her, like, I quit. Like, just here's your equipment. Like, you can give it to someone else and everything. And she was just like, no, like this can't happen. And then she asked me and I told her exactly what happened. And she's like, you just have to think that this is bigger than you. Like this, you're not doing this for yourself. You're doing it for all the women in the sport. Like if there's only 6 women at nationals, there should be 30 next year. So if you continue on, then 30 more girls are going to come because they want to do what you do. But if you stop now, then the sport is not going to grow. So it's like going back to your question, how do you get more women to ride and race? it's like you have to just go there and say like, I'm here, like I'm gonna do this, even if I'm alone. Then like more girls are gonna come and So I feel like she kind of like, it was like a mental, it's the same with swimming, like I was like, I give up, I don't want to do this anymore. And my friends were like, don't give up, just keep coming. And I was just like, no, dude, like, it's very hard, especially as a woman. It's like, so I was like, okay, I'll keep rolling with it. And then I raced nationals the next summer and I got second place in both. And then I was like, oh, it doesn't matter, I'll race velodrome. And then I went to nationals at the velodrome and I got a gold there. And then the Romanian national team was the same way. They were like, we need you in Romania. Like, can you stay here? We don't want you to go back.
Okay.
And then I think I really wanted my citizenship. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but until you have a citizenship, you have to be in this country 6 months out of the year. There's certain rules.
Okay.
So I just put everything on pause. And I was like, the most important thing for me is to live in US and then build like somewhat of a career so I can, do the things that I love to do. And then, I just stayed here. And then
So do you have any regrets having not like done the thing in Romania and been on the national team there and spent all that time there? Or are you okay with your decision to come back here and pursue the career side of things and everything else?
I don't think I have regrets. Okay. No, I think everybody there knows me. Like the people on the national team know me. And I think 10 years ago, it wasn't a lot, but now the sport is growing more and more and more. Like the national team is actually putting a lot of focus on helping kids and juniors get up in the ranks. And I think that right now, for example, we only have one spot in the Olympics. So out of the best cyclists in Romania, only one single person can go there.
That's wild.
Yes.
And that's based on this point system that you were talking about before?
Yes. Okay. It's like with UCI.
Wow. So whoever wins the national title is going to be the person that probably goes, right?
Yes, most of the time. And it's a very hard decision. There's always drama about it. I think in USA is the same. I don't know if you guys seen it, but like political. You have to choose 4 women and 4 men. So who's going to go represent the country? It's very hard. And I'm basically on the radar. So like I want to compete and continue to do this. I don't know. I can be 40. I know women who go to Olympics when they're 40. Like, I don't know if you guys know Amber Neben. She's amazing.
Yeah, she's still winning world titles up until, when was the last? I think she won one
2 years ago.
Yeah, like a small handful of years ago.
Yeah. So a lot of people there they're like, you're getting old. You should start a family. Like, I just kind of feel like as a woman athlete, like you think, especially when you see TV and you watch YouTube, like. You can do it all. Like I can have a kid and still go compete. There's a lot of professional women who have kids and they're in the pro peloton racing Giro right now. And you know what I mean?
Times are changing for sure.
Yeah.
At least, I don't know. From my perspective, I'm a dude. I don't know. I'm just spitballing over here. But from my perspective, it seems like I've seen a resurgence of, a lot of women like being a proponent of that these days. They're like, you can still be an athlete beyond like, having entered the years of motherhood and other things, and like they're competing at the highest level still. So how has that been influential on you at all? Like, are you seeing this thing like unfold and you're like, yeah, I can keep competing forever?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yep.
So you're aspiring to just continue to compete, right? Mm-hmm. And what would you do otherwise, do you think?
Well, I'm getting a degree on business administration. Okay. So like I've always felt like I want to run my own business. Like I want to be a boss. Like some people say I'm bossy, which is like, I like to say I'm not bossy. I just know what you guys should be doing. So
there you go.
I'm very I come off as I'm not 100% sure if I was born with this. I have a grandma who's still alive and she was a businesswoman. So she taught me a lot of things in life in general. And then I came here and I met a lot of people who own businesses. And I'm a people person, so I ask questions and I'm like a sponge. Like I love to learn. I like to read books too. So I right now I'm managing the bike shop, but I'm also gonna transfer into working in selling irrigation to farmers, like in agriculture. So like I love everything agriculture. I'm super passionate about it.
Where do you think that comes from?
Probably back home. Like I had a grandpa that had like huge like apple trees and grapes. They were making wine and just everything you can think of, alcohol, and they were selling fruits and vegetables to people and just making money. And
Very cool.
Yeah, so I'm super into it, especially because of the world we live in now. Everybody's talking about climate change and how climate control. I mean, just the food in general, it's a must. So if we don't make sure our food is good,
We're going to struggle.
yes.
Yeah. You go ahead.
I want to go circle back to something really quick. There's two things I kind of want to ask you about, or not ask you about, but kind of talk about. One is, have you ever noticed that the women's pro peloton is full of super just like high powered, well-educated, well-decorated women? I always think about this as so funny because, you know, you see it's like Dr. Esther Walker, you know, it's the women's pro peloton is so wildly more educated than the men's pro peloton is.
Yeah.
I'm blanking on her name now. I feel awful. She's an astronaut for NASA.
I don't recall.
I know who you're talking about too. Yeah, she raced on the USA national team. I know who you're talking about, but I can't remember her name either. She's a track racer. Yeah.
She races track. I always think it's so funny though that the women's pro peloton is like, you know, everyone has degrees, they have these high powered jobs, and then you look at like the men's pro peloton, and it's
funny that you're saying that. So there's this conversation I had with a friend who said that each one of us, when we're born into this world and we grow up, we kind of want to become a whole, right? Like, or we want to grow, right? And everybody does it differently. So some people, they do it through school. Like you hear people that get a degree and then they go for another degree and then they go for a master's degree and then they go for a doctorate. Or you hear people, they're like artists that they paint one thing and then they paint 10 and then they paint 40. Or you hear people who are athletes who they want to win and then they want to win again and then they want to win one more time. It's like you win one world championships title. Isn't that enough? No, I want to go next year and win again. Like, why? So it's the same. I feel like that's the world that we live in and everybody does it differently. And as cyclists, like we get into it and we're like, wow, I'm really good at this. And then you want to be better and then you want to be better. And then you watch people that are like really good and they're like, you're like, I want to be like them. I want to beat that guy. He's the best cyclist in US. I want to be better than him. How do I get there? And you just get into this of like, you know, I want to be the best I can be. And I think that when somebody's really good in school and like disciplined, then they get into a sport and guess what happens?
They get good.
Same thing. Yeah.
So talk about Esther and even Colleen, like she has a doctorate degree as well. And it's kind of cool.
Does she?
Like,
I had no idea.
Yeah, yesterday at Manhattan Beach Grand Prix, they did a call up. So they would say like, you know, doctorate degree and, you know, nutrition science and yeah. And then they present the girls and it's super cool. Like there's a professional athlete that I love from Northern California, Faulkner. I don't know if you guys follow her, but
Christina.
Yes,
Yeah.
And she just said how I think a year or two ago it was very hard for her because she crashed and she was injured. So she's racing in the pro peloton. She's trying to make it to the Olympics. She's like doing everything she can, and she's a very very smart, like educated woman. And because she struggled in the cycling scene, she decided to go and get another degree. So now she's like mentally, like I'm really good in school. So like I'll try my best to still ride and race, but I'm not fully focused there because if I feel like if I'm failing, that means I'm a failure. But it's like, no, I'm in school. So I'm like learning something new and it's interesting. Yeah, it's very cool.
So there's a bit of an excuse there.
Yeah.
You're furthering your education, I guess.
I just love sports in general. Like I feel like if you guys notice kids that practice sports when they were kids or when they grow up, they're just so disciplined. Like they know what it means. You got to wake up at 6 and do the training. Like if you're not getting it done, you're not going to win your race. So like when you want to get a job or you run a business, you know you have to do the work if you want to get your salary or wherever it is. Yeah.
They do. There are like a lot of congruencies between the two. I found personally is like, you know, same thing with like, I don't know, my job, but also like content creation, things like that. It's people don't realize the amount of like work and time that you have to put into those things. And I realized that when I speak to athletes or talk to athletes about this stuff, it doesn't seem that far-fetched because I think athletes are so used to like, oh, 6 a.m., got to wake up, got to train, got to do the thing. And then all day you're doing something else. And then, okay, now it's time to train in the afternoon or whatever that looks like. And so I feel like that translates well. You do hear a lot about athletes like owning businesses and getting involved in those things. Also, Christina Birch, I think.
Christina Birch.
Yeah.
There she is. Yeah.
She is
She's
US
awesome.
track champion to NASA.
Yeah.
So
But then
very
also,
cool
like, even
example of that.
the woman who won the gold race or gold medal in the Olympics was the Polish woman. She has a math PhD.
Yeah.
You know, it's even at the absolute highest level, this woman has a gold medal.
Yeah.
And I think she's a math professor in Poland.
Yeah.
Dedicated individuals.
Yeah. I'm just always amazed that the women's pro peloton is so, like, outside of just their cycling accolades, is so, Christina Birch is an astronaut.
Yeah.
Colleen has a PhD. Esther has a PhD.
Yeah. No, for sure. Even Megan Jastrab, she got 2 degrees and a master, and she's like in Europe racing in her 20s. Yeah. I think it's basically as a woman athlete, like you have to be very organized, very disciplined. Like you wake up in the morning and like, I think it's kind of like you have to try harder. Just like everything you do, like maybe because it is a men dominant sport. Like for example, men have bigger salaries than women do. So then it's like, as women, I think you have to bring a lot, right? Like what value do you bring to my team? Like, you know, why should I sign you on here? You know what I mean? So I think it's, of course, like he said, it's like driven, like, you know, you have to have the drive, but also just like everything. You just have to be very organized, very calculated, right? You get into bike racing, you have to know everything what you're doing. I mean, you know, there's secrets to success.
I'm kind of, maybe this might be like the negative side of this whole thing, but I was going to ask, from your perspective, do you think that women feel like they maybe have to have something else instead of just a sport? Because I think that in men's sports, quite often there's an easy path of like, or a very obvious situation in which you can pay your bills as a professional athlete as a male. As a female, does that exist in the same capacity? I mean, I think it's probably pretty easy to say no, historically at least. Maybe we're seeing some changes on that front. But do you think that puts a weird pressure on women to have something in the background, like a PhD, for example, that allows them to, you know, go to work in a high-paying field while still being able to pursue athletics because maybe they're not going to knock down some $500,000 salary in their sport?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, at the top level, they get paid to do it. So they get it done. Like Lizzie Diamond, you know, she's a mom. And she still races. That's because she has a huge salary. So she can do it, right? But for example, let me give another example. That's at the top level, of course, you have a salary and you can do it full time. But in US, like, for example, or like, I don't know, maybe Kristen Faulkner, right? She has to have a part-time job because like you just said, her salary is not big enough to be like, I can take care of myself. You know what I mean? So like when I was a guest rider on the pro team, there was 3 girls there who were on their laptops in the afternoon writing training programs. So I think most people do that. Like you become a good cyclist and then you become a coach. So now you have a part-time job. So as a woman, you always have to do something on the side. It's like you're a bike racer, but you're also doing something on the side. Like, and I think I knew that from the beginning. Like I remember I used to race a crit at 8 a.m. and then go at the restaurant and open at 11 and work all day and then race again the next morning. And I could see that in all the other sports. Like the women usually they'll practice a sport at the highest level and then they'll do a part-time gig wherever it is. You know, it doesn't have to be bike coach. You could do a lot of other things where it's like, yeah, I need the money because my team is not really paying me enough to pay all the bills. And yeah.
That's a really different experience. And it sounds like it would be much more complicated. I mean, or it just sounds like it's kind of like, you know, men experience the amateur level. And that seems like not, there's an interesting like distinction there because I feel like maybe that's a cycling specific thing for the most part, but you did mention that it kind of runs through other sports as well. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's kind of a tough scenario to be in.
Mm-hmm. The other thing that I wanted to bring up is, have you heard about, I was reading, I don't remember if it was like an Escape Collective article or something, but that was talking about ever since, I think they call it the Kopecky effect, but that ever since like Lotto Kopecky has kind of blown up on the world stage, that I think it was 180 times as many young women have gotten Belgian racing licenses.
Wow.
That's cool.
My hair is like going up and down. It's amazing. I didn't know. I didn't see the article, but that's amazing.
I remember it being like some astronomical increase. Is there any like desire to like be the Romanian Lotto Kopecky?
Yeah, of course. I mean, yeah, I think, okay, so let's put it this way. If I'm really good at road racing, like I want all the other young girls to be really good at road racing because I feel empowered. I'm like, I'm not just good at road racing. I'm good at a lot of things. And racing has helped me be who I am today. And all the opportunities I got from different people, like there's so many people that I rode bikes with that helped me with little things and advice and just a lot of opportunities in general. So when I look at a girl right now that's 14 years old and she's racing in San Diego and she wants to compete and she wants to, be good, I want to go and be like, keep going, like you got this. And if I see she's having a bad day, I'm like, like there's 2 junior girls in San Diego who are sisters, twins, really good racers.
The Chen sisters?
Yes, yeah. Sometimes they'll go on a race and somebody would scream at them or they'll be like, you're doing something wrong. And I could see immediately how they get affected by the behavior in the peloton,
discouraged and
yes, and I go after the race, I'm like, good job, you did good. And then they're very like naive, like really, like she was screaming at me, and I'm like, nah, don't worry about it, just keep going, you got this, you should have beat her. And you know what I mean? Because it's hard, like again, right? Like I want to encourage them because I know even if, let's say they don't make it to the Olympics, they're gonna be athletes like for the next 10 years. And what happens when you're a good athlete? You become a good person, a good businesswoman, or a good whatever you decide to do, because you learn discipline and you learn, I don't even know, positive everything, right? You just feel very empowered. I don't know if as a guy you guys feel like this, like when you get like a QM or if you get a win, you just feel like everybody has an ego, right? So you get off the bike and you look at your phone and you're like, wow, you're like, I'm the king, I got the best thing. So as a woman, it's even bigger, right? Because I don't know, it's just like a very empowering feeling. Yeah.
Have you had like young Romanian women reach out to you being like, yeah,
for sure. Yeah, they'll message me on Instagram and ask me different questions, or like before nationals, they'll compete against other girls. And yeah, and I love it. Like sometimes when I go back, I'll give them like a pair of cool sunglasses or like a pair of shoes, and they just I
feel like that just makes all the difference.
For sure.
I mean, we talked to Dante about this, but also just being a person in a place where young people get to see you and be like, I want to be you, Mm-hmm. And I mean, who did you have like a national, like who is the woman in Romanian cycling that you were like, I want to be like her?
There was one girl who had like, I think 8 national titles, and she was on a professional team for Italy. Mm-hmm. She actually went to the Olympics as well. She was very young. And I think she gave up at some point because of crashing. Like she crashed a lot in different places, got injured really bad, but she was really, really strong. So when I first got into cycling, I was like, I want to go race with her. Like she's amazing. And I followed her on Instagram. I think she still works in the cycling industry now, but probably for a clothing company. But she was pretty cool. And then Leah was a big influence in my life. The woman that had Sisterhood of Cycling here, mm-hmm. She started the women only club. And she basically told me that I'm going to meet a lot of people. So she said that even if you're not good at this, you're not going to win, like you're just competing, go to all the events and like talk to people, because you're going to get jobs, you're going to get opportunities, Yeah, she was just very encouraging in general. And, she said, even if you switch industries, let's say you don't want to be in the cycling industry, this is the most beautiful thing about cycling, I think, that you go to a group ride and you meet people from like all walks of life, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of different professions of individuals that cycle.
Yeah, and it's easy to talk to, right? Because you ride bikes together and you immediately connect,
Common
right?
ground,
You're doing something you love. So like I've met kids who are like 14 years old that have TikTok pages that make more money than I do. And then I met guys who are like, 58 years old that sell $1 million homes in like San Diego County. Like, you know what I mean? And you just ask questions, or like, it could be anything, right? Like for example, I got a big job opportunity now to work in irrigation because I met a business owner on a group ride. And he's like, oh, you grew up on a farm? Like I talk with a lot of farmers. And I'm like, really? Like what about? And then that's how the conversation started.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's something that you said earlier, and this is kind of going back as well. It seems like what I've heard from you is like a constant positivity. So when you talk about other females in the peloton and women that you're racing against, you're like, oh my gosh, she's so amazing. She's so amazing. She's so amazing, right? And there's all these women that it seems like, these are your competitors in some capacity, and you find them to be so amazing and like interesting and awesome, and like you are uplifting them, right? Like verbally out loud. Whereas I feel like a lot of dudes probably aren't very similar in that regard. A lot of us have our big ass egos in the way of doing that. And we're just like, yeah, that guy's fine. You know?
Yeah, I think women are just very good friends off the bike. Like once you get off the bike, like we're all cool. Yeah, we don't really see this with guys. I feel like you guys get off the bikes and it's like, unless you're in the same club, you just don't really talk to each other.
I feel like SoCal people, you know, we all look out for our own to some extent, you know, but there's some drama and stuff sometimes. But it seems like, yeah, the women's peloton is a little more accepting and uplifting of each other. Do you find that to be the case overall?
No, it's true. Yeah, it's very true. Especially with women clubs. Like, for example, PC that runs the other women's club. Like, when I had our women's club, we would always message each other. Like, are you guys coming to this race? Will you come to this race? Just because we wanted to grow the sport. So we wanted to make sure. Exactly.
With other groups.
Then more teams come. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's like the subtext is that by everyone showing up, like the sport grows. And so
we're all in pursuit of the same goal.
Yeah. And like obviously everyone wants to win, but there's also this underlying goal of, hey, we're all on this same team of growing the sport together.
Not to mention the more people that show up, the bigger the prize purse, right? Hey.
I have thought a lot about this where I talked to Laurel about this sometimes, where is it sometimes hard though to be the face of, you know, representation, where it's like, oh, well, if you don't show up, the sport gets smaller. Do you feel this pressure to show up because, you know, you are someone who's like carving a space out for not just yourself, but young women,
Romanian women or just young women in the sport.
Do you ever just wish that you could just be, because you become a spokesperson, really.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Do you ever just wish you could be just an athlete? Hey, I want to just go. I want to pin my number on. I want to race. I want to go home.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to be a spokesperson for myself, for women, for Romania, for...
Yeah. Sometimes, like, I don't know. I think it rarely... I'm just a very positive person, so... I feel the pressure sometimes. Like, if I don't go to a race, I'm like, oh, man, like, I'm not there. Or sometimes when people come to me with, like, weird requests or questions... one thing could be social media, like when you're sponsored by a brand and you have to show them, you have to send content all the time. That could be a lot of pressure. It's hard. I mean, it's very hard, but I think that everybody has a why, right? Like, why do you do what you do? So I wake up in the morning and like, I know I want to be the best version I can be, because like you said, the young girls are looking at me. So if I don't go to training, or if I don't go to the race, or if I don't take the picture with the new bike, they're looking at me, you know what I mean? So like, if you work hard, I think the kids that come, you kind of set a barrier, or how do you call it? You set
like a standard.
You set a standard.
Set the bar.
So the higher I raise it, then I know all the girls that come juniors, they're going to be up there as well.
Yeah.
So
yeah, they get to start where you finished, kind of, right? Yeah. That's a good way to think about it.
Kind of like building blocks in a sense. So you're establishing a foundation then that others can stand on top of in some way.
Yeah.
That's a good way to look at it.
Do you feel hopeful about the way things are heading?
Yeah, of course. We used to have 5-6 girls in a crit, and yesterday was, I think, 40 of us.
I saw.
Yeah, that's a big field.
Yeah, I turned on the LA crits live stream, and it was women's pro and two. I was like, that's so many people.
Yeah, that's cool. It feels like a success. It feels like a big deal, you know? I used to manage a women's team, and then I think I've watched it grow in the last 8 years, and yeah, it feels like a really big deal. And I know for guys, you don't think about it because you've had 80 guys in your race every weekend since.
Sometimes lately we've seen some fields that have been a little bit smaller here and there, and you know, it is an interesting like feeling or thing when you have like, you know, 15, 20 dudes in a field and it's a pro 1 through 3 race or something. That is like an odd feeling, right? So it is nice when you have participation, but maybe we get the opposite, right? You guys have 40 women in the field and it feels like, wow, this is a huge success. Whereas like, you know, we probably do get used to that. And then when we have 20 dudes in the field or less, it's like, this is a huge failure, right? So it's like almost opposite ends of the spectrum there.
Yeah.
What do you think is like the next, I think that what is the next thing that is going to help? I've joked with, I think, how are we going to fix?
How do we fix American
USA
cycling?
But I think what are things that people can do? What are things that companies can do that are gonna make it so like the next generation of women cyclists don't have to race 8 people?
Yeah. I think it's just inclusivity in general, right? Like, whenever you do a group ride, like make it like extra welcome for girls. Like if there's a group that goes really fast, have a B group that all the girls can be on. Start group rides with women, like racing, like all the race promoters that we have. I think at the moment, everybody has a women's field. Mm-hmm. So just promote more women events. I think there's a lot out there, but there can be a lot more. For sure. Yeah. Like I have friends that manage different bike shops that promote group rides and just, basically being inclusive. You know what I mean? And with Specialized, for example, if they sponsor men's team and they have 4 men on it, they should say, hey, next year we want 4 women or else you don't get a contract, right? Like, for example, Legion of LA is doing a great thing. They have a women's team and it's awesome, and I know you'll hear this from team directors who say, I have 8 guys and they're really good, but I can't get 8 girls. There's no 8 strong girls here that want to be on a pro team. And I think that's just an excuse. Like, that's not true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that
if you want a women's team, it's going to happen. Like,
how would you recommend? So from your perspective, I feel like you're pretty involved with iSpeed these days, right? Mm-hmm. And like, I know I see you always on the sidelines over there and like integrated with the team and everything. So you have a unique kind of team perspective because you've seen growth in that space. So how would you personally seek out women to then join a team like that? Like an elite level team?
Well, I do get messages from women.
Okay.
So they're like, hey, I want to be on a team. Do you have any advice? Like, or
so
hey, I want to be on your team.
Be?
Yeah, it's hard. It's like, I want to ask them that my first question is like, are you committed?
Yeah.
That's like my number 1 question. Like, is this going to be a priority for you? Because I don't want you to come in my team and then the first race we do, you're going to say, oh, actually, I'm going out with my parents for dinner Saturday, so I can't wake up to be at the race on Sunday. Or
especially when there's a lot of resources that you've farmed for these people that are joining your team, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's number 1 question. Like, do you really want to do this? And like, if they say yes, I'm going to ask, why are you doing it? Like, do you have a strong desire? You know what I mean? Like, do you really want to come and compete and race all year? Because it's hard. It's hard to sacrifice all your weekends to go to bike racing. Sacrifice your weekdays because you have to train if you want to compete at the highest level. So it's hard. I mean, cycling is brutal.
It's a painful sport. That's for
sometimes
sure.
I like to say that the sport chose me. I didn't choose this. I wish I could just lay in bed and hang out.
You could be skydiving instead.
Yeah, be chill. But yeah, I mean, it's not easy, but it's doable. Like, there's a lot of pro teams, a lot more than they used to be, and I think the sport is growing. And sometimes it's sad right now. DNA Cycling, I think it was a big women's team. They're falling apart. So, but I think there's going to be a new team that's going to come, and you know what I mean. Like, there's going to be opportunity. But bike brands, of course, they have to get involved. Like I said earlier, even like wheel companies or like, whoever it is, SRAM, Shimano, like
put your money where your mouth is type
thing. Like a lot of people say that it's not worth investing in a team. But at the end of the day, like I'm the one that does all the group rides Monday through Friday. So like, for example, right now we meet at 5:30 a.m. and we ride for an hour and a half. And there's like 6 people who don't know a lot about cycling, but they come because they want to ride their bikes. And I'm on a team and I'm on a felt bike. And then they look at me and they want to buy the bike because they see I'm fast. And they kind of want to, how do you say that? Like belong.
Maybe, emulate, fit in.
Yeah. So it's like a natural, like basically as a professional team, you have to kind of like pitch this to company CEO or.
So I see kind of an opportunity here and maybe this is, and maybe I'm wrong, but I do see sort of an opportunity for, female cyclists now with socials and things like that. I see that as kind of an opportunity for, a female bike racer, for example, to also be far more valuable to brands, right? Because I think individuals can get behind individual athletes now more than ever with like the rise of socials and things. So what do you think in terms of that? Because, if even now in the event, say, Tour de Femmes, for example, is not as watched as the Tour de France, right? Mm-hmm. Say it's just not, right? Yeah. The viewership isn't as much there. So brands are justifying that as the reason to not buy into the sport. Mm-hmm. Well, now you have this argument, well, this female bicyclist / bike racer has 2 million followers. You know, this male bike racer has 100,000 and you give him X amount of support. But like, what about her? You know, she deserves X amount of support. So do you think that socials maybe will help balance things out in the future?
Yeah, for sure. And I think companies in general, like I feel like as athletes now we try to tell people, like CEOs or CFOs, like, hey, it's not cool. Like, okay, and I work in sales and I'm going to be hopefully a sales director, maybe a business owner one day. But I just feel like people buy from people they like, right? So
It's true.
if you're not likable, and like, for example, you own a company and you only sponsor men, women are not going to like you because they're going to say, this guy, he only sells to men. So no woman is ever going to go and buy wheels from you. If you have a wheels company, all you do is sponsor men. So guess all the women are going to go buy their wheels? To your competition, because he's encouraging and he's helping women. So it's like we're trying to keep people reliable. Like, hey, are you helping women as well? Like, oh, you're sponsoring Tour de France. How about women Tour de France? Like I sent a message to, do you guys know who Chris Horner is?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So last year he was doing the butterfly effect and I was watching Tour de France because I love to follow. And I left a comment and I said, are you doing this for the women as well? Because this is not fair. You comment and he actually
Are you analyzing the Tour de France?
And then he did a YouTube and he had a lot of views. Everybody watched how he was commenting on the women's tour. Yeah.
That's very cool, actually. I didn't know he did that.
Yeah.
All because of Georgeta people.
Chris Warner's local.
Yeah.
Is he?
Yeah. He was like, he used to train a lot. I think he still has the KOM up Palomar Mountain.
I think he does, yeah.
Where's he at?
In Rancho Santa Fe.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's wild.
I think he lives in, this is insider information. He was in the shop like maybe 3 months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, he lives in, I hope I'm not like doxing Chris Horner.
Yeah, don't say it. You can just say he's
he
in
lives
San Diego
in
County.
Oregon a lot of times, but then I think he lives down here.
Yeah, he
a
used
lot
to
of
train
times.
here. He always says the San Diego County has the best training you can ever do. Yeah.
He rides mostly his
agree with
tandem
this.
around with his son on the back.
That's pretty
Which is-
rad.
I feel like it would be terrifying to be on. I do not want to be anywhere near the back of a tandem that is getting ridden that fast.
Yeah, no.
I think that is what you did though, is exactly how change happens. You know, I think that a lot of companies kind of operate at the status quo where they're not even thinking. I don't think that they're even doing it out of malice. I think that they're doing it out of just total negligence, where they're like, well, this is just how we've ran things forever. And I think people like you who are willing to, you know, like, hey, like, what about us?
Yeah, speak up, right?
Yeah. I think that like in so much like that, like breaks this cycle of just they're on autopilot. And it's even stuff like that like starts conversations for companies. I've seen this. I mean, we saw some of this with like with Panorama Mall, where they were like, hey, we want more for women's clothing. We want like more inclusive sizes. And the guy who runs North America was like, okay, like we'll get on that.
Yeah.
You know, I think we saw this with Live Bikes where,
Yeah. There was a brand that was making women bikes. Yeah.
yeah. And I mean, they're still around. And it was the same thing where this guy's wife was like, how come we don't make bikes for women? He was like, oh shit, you're right. We should.
Good point.
And I think that what is so cool about social media right now is that we are seeing a lot of people like you, like, you know, all of these like really, really kind of empowered women be like, hey, like put it in my hand, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that that's so cool to see because I haven't been in the sport that long, but I feel like I didn't see that when I was getting into it.
Yeah.
I think that that's something that's happened in like the last 5 years. That's so good to see. And I think it's only going to get better.
Yeah, for sure.
Have you seen growth in Romanian cycling over the last few years? Because I feel like cycling as a sport is growing. I mean, I know American cycling, there are struggles that we're experiencing, but yeah, have you seen a growth in cycling, you know, in your home country as well?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, it's noticeable. Yeah, you can see a lot more girls and also a lot more juniors. Like basically the more events people put like as promoters, the more clubs come out and the more clubs get encouraged to have more kids on there. And Yeah, they're doing like camps right now. So basically the national team gets together and they go to Turkey for 3 weeks and they just ride bikes and they choose the top, 12 athletes and they say we're all going to train together and they have a national coach. And yeah, I mean, the most successful teams, Netherlands, UK, like that's what they have. They have a national program that runs, and even USA Cycling. Like I think they have a center in Colorado, right?
Just kidding.
No, I mean,
They do.
No.
They go there and it's like the top athletes and this is how we decide who's going to represent us in the Olympics. Everybody's shooting for gold. So you want the best athletes there. And
Of course.
yeah.
Is USA Cycling like has no money to fund American athletes? Does Romanian cycling do things for their athletes in a way that feels productive?
Some of them do. I feel like the focus is on mountain biking at the moment. But I think a lot of independent companies like huge grocery stores or, whoever is involved, like they also give a lot of money to the sport. It's not just like the federation.
I need to do something real quick.
What are those?
We're back in business. I just had to clear some space.
Sugar and carbs. If anybody wants to know a secret to good bike racing.
Just candy. Strictly candy. We are back in business, by the way. We're good to go. Sorry, I had to clear some space on the memory card. McCoy was hogging it all.
Every time I finish like a big race block, I just raced nationals for 4 days. I got home and I'm like, oh, my teeth hurt. Or like I go to stage race, I'm like, oh, do I need to brush my teeth?
Wonder why.
Yeah.
8 bags of Haribo.
8 bags of Haribo a day. They don't want to know that that's the secret.
Yeah. What do you think about cycling as just a general way to stay fit? Because aside from bike racing, right? And maybe not every female in the sport, and honestly, not every dude in the sport wants to necessarily race or compete. So how do we as bike racers make the sport more inclusive for those that don't want to compete?
Yeah.
What does that look like? Do you ever see yourself stepping away in some capacity and not racing, or would you always want to be competitive?
Yeah, for sure. Like I know I want to be a mom one day, so I know I'm going to have to pause all this craziness. But I think as a sport, it's awesome. I mean, I have a lot of friends that ride for fun, then they don't race. Some of them, they bike somewhere and then they camp, they sleep the night, and then they ride back home, which is amazing. There's a big organization that does that in LA. I think it's the coolest thing. I follow them and hopefully one day I'll get there.
Who is that?
It's actually Susie. So they have an Instagram social. I think it's called, I forgot now, but it's something with Wolf as well. I can tell you guys exactly because you should follow them. They're pretty cool. And sometimes they allow men to be there too.
We're doing, this might be a podcast first. This is an Instagram plug. If you have your phone out right now and you're watching this.
So it's called Wild Wolf Cycling Collective.
Oh yeah, I have heard of them.
Yeah, they're awesome.
And so this is a female bikepacking group.
Yes, and
Very
they
cool.
invite guys as well sometimes. And then I have friends who don't like the gym. Like they hate going into the gym. One thing is like other men staring at them.
an intimidating place.
Yes. So
for
they
a lot
just
of
want to
people.
get out of the house. They have 1 hour a day and they're like, what do I do? So then they buy a bike and they either ride in the morning before coffee for an hour and then they go on with their day. Or they have a lunch break, like from 12 to 1, they get on their bikes and they pedal. So I think it's a great way to stay fit. I mean, cycling is basically cardio. Of course, you can go in the big ring and just push hard. So feel like, your muscles are like, but it's a great way to
Getting
stay fit.
swole.
Yeah. And I talk to people in the bike shop about this. And I think 80% of my customers, they love gravel and mountain biking because they're scared of cars. So nobody really, for us, it's easy to ride in between cars because we feel like we're skilled and we can do it. But we all have friends that got hit by cars and it never ends well. But I have a lot of people who just love riding, to stay fit. It's awesome. I think it's great. A lot of people like to ride and drink beer. Like I have a group of friends.
That's why I started cycling, actually. No joke. That was my goal, is to like ride to breweries and hang out.
Yeah.
But then, of course, the competitive bug takes over. So, yeah.
You have to get to the brewery first.
Yeah. One time, me and my dad, we met my mom and sister at a winery up in like outside of Ojai, and we rode from Ventura and maybe got a little sauced. And then I was coming back down the bike path, just maybe a little intoxicated. It was quite the experience. That's all I have to say about that one. I felt really strong though. Yeah. So maybe no drinking and riding. I'm not encouraging this.
What do you feel like is next for you? Like not like after bikes, but like, I mean, you've had your
Do you want to compete
speed.
Romanian nationals again?
Yeah, like, are you
What's
headed back to Romania? Are you
I'm going to go to Romania. I think I'm going to race Velodrome Nationals. I feel like there's something inside of me, like maybe like a fire there that says that I want to make it to the Olympics. So 2028 Olympic Games, if you guys don't know yet, they're coming to LA.
Yep.
It's going to be a big deal. So I can just be like, hey, I'm already here. You don't have to buy me a ticket. That's kind of like my dream. But no, honestly, I think I want to be in the best shape of my life in 2028. So if the opportunity comes and they're going to be like, okay, you have to race, I'm going to say, I'm ready. Like, you know, I just learned the hard way that you have to be ready. Like, if opportunity comes, you say yes. It's easy to say yes, but then you also have to stay prepared. You don't like get ready, like you just stay ready. So
Okay.
It's my new motto in life.
Stay ready.
Yes, and I might have a baby and then still train for 2-3 more years because there's this thing called baby doping, which is like you can have a baby and apparently a lot of women get stronger after.
I had no
Your
idea.
body, like, you guys don't know about it? Yeah, you can Google it. It's called baby doping.
Baby doping.
Which, like, I wouldn't say that's the reason why I would have a baby.
Have 4.
Yeah.
Does it
No.
does the effect compound? Next thing we know, Max is pregnant.
I got to win a national title somehow.
Yeah, so it's definitely on my vision board. I have a vision board at home, and I told myself that if I'm not going to compete, at least I'm going to be part of something there. I'm not sure what it's going to be, you know. Mountain biking might come to Temecula. There's a big mountain bike park there called Velocity. It's awesome. So I'm hearing rumors that they're trying everybody to convince that it would be the best place to race mountain bikes.
And that's for
for the LA
2020.
Olympics?
Oh, okay.
Because
Oh,
I
cool.
think that another location is Bonelli. That's another mountain bike park that's closer to LA. But it doesn't really matter, right? Like I hear there's horse racing. I don't know if you guys are familiar with, but Temecula is huge in horse racing. So all the horse racing is going to be in Temecula. So TV and radio and everybody's going to be there already. So logistically, it makes sense that you could put another sport in the same town and make it easy for everybody.
Do you know who your competition is on the track in Romania? Who is it?
The national champion, you mean?
Yeah,
Who would you have to
Who would you have to
beat?
beat?
There's one young girl. She's part of a club, Steaua. She's basically the national champion right now in most of the events. She's the best. Yeah, she trains a lot. I feel like she's only training in school. She's in college. Really strong.
So
Is
you're
she-
hoping for her downfall, is what I'm.
No, I'm not saying that because right now she's actually.
Oh, I forgot. I'm sorry.
No. Right now she's competing in European championships, which like I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. It's kind of like, you know, the Pan American Games. So like I said, there's a point system, right, with UCI. So she needs to be competing in UCI events to earn points. And I'm going to compete in UCI events, I think in Pennsylvania. You've been to that velodrome?
Drexler Town?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to go there next summer and compete because there's a UCI event there and they can just send me a kit and I'll represent Romania. So if I win UCI points, that can help her make it to the Olympics. And if she doesn't make it, then I can make it. And if I don't make it, there might be another woman. So it's just a matter of like gathering points. You have to go to events that are UCI sanctioned.
Yeah,
Okay.
because your points aren't attached to you; they're attached to your federation. So it's like if you win, it's not you who gets the points; it's like all of Romania, or I guess
Yeah.
all of Romanian women's cycling gets
Yeah.
the points.
Yep.
So you're adding to the total pot for the country. That's cool.
Yeah, which is also why it's like hard to have like a selection criteria because like
Yeah,
the points
you-
aren't attached to any one person.
That's so interesting.
It's up to the federation at the end of the day to decide.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I feel like that's like the really. I was thinking about this. A lot of people have every year, like the year before the Olympics, a bunch of people retire because they train. The Olympic team get announced. They either do or don't make it, and if they do make it, they have to train for another year.
Yeah.
And if they don't make it, they retire. And so a lot of people retired this year from USA Cycling. And I think that it is this very selfless thing to do.
Yeah.
To be like, hey, I devoted the last 3 years of my life collecting UCI points
Yeah.
to like send a young athlete
Yeah.
in my place.
But that would make me very happy. For example, if
Yeah.
I would win all the UCI points and then I would see a young girl go into the Olympics, I personally, as a woman, I would be very happy because there's a woman cyclist in the Olympics. Most of the time it's men. It's one man or two men, right? But it's like I'm the one that helped her get there. So like you said, it's like being, like you guys watch Hinkapi do you guys watch the show with Lance Armstrong? Like there are two different people, like one guy, he's always like winning and the other one always talks about other people and how others are doing. It's a personality thing, right? So yeah, that's just life.
I think it would be so cool to like see. I don't think of like Romania as a huge cycling power. Am I wrong in that?
Well, there's one guy named Vlad Daskalu who was a world champion mountain biker at some point. Who was really good. So we have a few strong people there.
I think it would be cool though to like see that change.
Like, for example, you guys watch Tour de France right now. There's a guy that won 3 stages already, right?
Yeah, Benny.
Exactly. And he comes from a country that you don't normally see on TV, or you don't see cyclists from that country. And why do you think everybody's happy for him? It's
an underdog story in a way.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Everybody loves the underdog story. So I feel like, for example, if maybe that girl in 2028 is going to win gold in the Olympics and people are going to be like, wait, what? She's from Romania? Like, everybody expects USA to win the gold. And then she's going to have this story where like, everybody's going to talk about it. And I think, like you were saying, hundreds of girls in Romania are going to start buying bikes because they all want to be Olympic gold medalists like she was. So.
Yeah, it like lets people know that it's possible.
Yeah.
And I think this is what Legion's been on about that's why representation matters, is that by doing something for the first time, even if you're not like the first person to do it, you show other people behind you that it can be done, right? And so it's like, if you go out and rack up a bunch of UCI points, get some other girl to the Olympics, it's like, hey, that's what it's for, right?
Yeah.
I'm kind of out of questions.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Is that a stopping point?
Do you have anything that you want to plug to the people? Things that people should pay attention to? I mean,
probably Georgeta is going to switch teams next year. Yeah, that's what people...
all right.
1 second, wait.
Is this public stuff that we need to talk about? Where are you going?
You guys are on, how do you call that when you just first announce it?
This is breaking news.
This is the announcement. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to keep it a surprise.
Okay.
What?
Yeah.
Dang, the cliffhanger. All right, we'll have to do a follow-up. Is this your own thing that you're looking at? What?
Yes.
Yeah, come on, give us a little bit more.
I think that my ex-team director was right about just being on a women team. Like you're either on a women's team or just, I want to do more for the women. And I feel like I've been helping manage a men's team. And I noticed like behind the scenes of like, that attitude of like everything we do here is so that the guys can win. And now I'm like, what happened to the women? Like I'm part of something that's like, basically contradictory to what I stand for.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's been quite a bit that you've learned, right, about team management too, that you could now hopefully take forward and apply, right? Okay.
Yes.
So is it a new team?
Yes.
All right. I think
Say no more.
she's giving us the stonewalling us.
Anyone you want to thank?
I want to thank you guys for letting me tell my story. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
We appreciate that.
Yeah.
We want to thank you for coming on and telling your story.
Yeah, I feel like I like to say that a lot of people know me, but nobody knows like my story. Yeah.
That's why we're here.
That's why we're here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a million people to thank. I mean, there's people that sold me bikes, that pushed me up group rides on the hills, and then, yelled at me from the sidelines at the races. And yeah, a lot of people just helped me be who I am today.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on again. Yeah, we really appreciate it and really appreciate getting the opportunity to hang out and talk and learn more about you behind the scenes of bike racing.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Awesome.
We'll call it, Max.
Here's the clap.